So we have a bit of an injury update on a valued starter that is definitely less than ideal if true. And in today's video, we've got to get into that, more roster moves the Chiefs made today, the defense having a heyday at camp practice, and more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, one of the most notable players that have been listed as injured, that was yesterday, was safety Justin Reid, who is dealing with some sort of an issue with his quad. He was seen out there yesterday with a sleeve on his leg, but today he wore no sleeve and was even doing some reps without a helmet today. So he's definitely progressing, and even yesterday on social media, Justin Reid himself called this a minor setback. And when asked about that injury today, here's what defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo had to say about it.
You know, there's, Jay Reid, we're not going to have for a little bit here. And so it's a blessing and a curse, right? Jay Reid doesn't get the reps, but somebody else get those reps. And right now it's Jaden that's benefiting from it.
Jay Reid, we're not going to have for a little bit here, is what was said. And the obvious question is, how long is a little bit? With him being out there and working, I took that as not very long, and Justin should be back sometime, hopefully during training camp. However, Jason Anderson of 810 Sports dropped a bit of a bombshell today after practice. He said that he's been told that Reid's quad injury is more serious than day-to-day, adding that he might miss all of preseason and is still a question mark for the beginning of the year. I mean, if Jason Anderson's source is correct, Justin's quad injury is a bit more drastic than things were made to initially appear. Obviously, it's pretty hard to know for sure, so we will have to wait it out and see if Andy Reid decides to give us more clarity on the injury. He probably won't give us more clarity, let's be honest, or until Justin Reid just ends up being back out there one day at camp. Now, let's say the injury is a bit more serious and Justin Reid's availability is in question to start the season. What does that mean for the safety room as a whole? Some think the Chiefs should go ahead and sign notable free agent Justin Simmons, the former Denver Broncos safety. He's a 4-time All-Pro and a 2-time Pro Bowler after all, and also leads the league with 30 interceptions since 2016. And get this, after being cut by the Broncos earlier this offseason in a cap-related move, Simmons said that he's waiting for the right opportunity, hoping for a chance to sign with a Super Bowl contender. Well, that's exactly what the Chiefs are. The problem is, Simmons could be looking for quite a lucrative deal, even if it's just a one-year deal, and I'm not sure the Chiefs can afford somebody that's going to be that expensive. Sure, it would be awesome, but if he's looking around an $18 million per year deal, that's probably going to be a no for me. Plus, the safety room is a strong one, in my opinion. Brian Cook is back and healthy. Chamari Connor can play all over the secondary and is gearing up for a very strong year 2. The veteran Deion Bush is back on a one-year deal. You could plug and play him if you need. And then you can't forget that the Chiefs just drafted arguably the best safety in this year's draft class in the 4th round, Jaden Hicks. He's the guy that's been getting some early first-team reps so far with Justin Reid out, and Spags is putting Hicks through what they put Chamari through last year. They have him all over the place at the moment, just kind of taking it all in like a fire hose, drinking from a whatever the saying is, you know what I mean. And that's only going to benefit him heading into the season. Next up, there were a couple of players missing from today's practice, with those being wide receiver Xavier Worthy and cornerback Kelvin Joseph. Don't worry too much though, because Worthy is reportedly just dealing with an illness, so much better news than what I initially thought. I thought maybe he tweaked his hamstring that he's been dealing with all offseason long, but he's just dealing with some sort of a sickness. Then Kelvin Joseph is simply an excused absence, something that's been approved ahead of time. So for now, no major injuries, some good news there for both of them. And while Worthy found himself in the highlights yesterday, Mahomes was able to find Hollywood Brown in the back of the end zone here with a nice timed throw, thanks to a solid play design, lots of window dressing with pop and motion pre-snap, and attention being paid to Kelsey on the right side of the screen, Mahomes is left. Then you had Pop moving out to the flat, which bought just enough time to find an open window for Hollywood, touchdown, Kansas City. Then running back, fullback, hybrid Carson Steele could be seen here on a screen pass versus Casper the Friendly Ghost. However, it's worth noting that this man can move. He's going to be an interesting watch considering the Chiefs opted not to roll with the fullback last year, yet Carson is roughly just 8 pounds lighter than the Chiefs' last fullback, Mike Burton. Yet Carson is a dual threat back that trucked people in college on the regular. I'm definitely excited to see how things play out for Carson Steele. The pads come on Friday, and that's where we'll get more glimpses of what the running back room has. Someone asked me about Rees-Zammit in the comments of yesterday's update because I didn't really mention him. The reason for that is there's not too much to gather about the running backs until those pads do come on. But if you were curious, yesterday was a quiet day for LRZ overall. I believe he was working in the punt shield on special teams, though today he was seen out there working on punt returns and getting some reps in with the second team offense. He was flicked out wide here on this play, though he didn't get the pass thrown his way. He also stayed after practice to work on his blocking, then signed some autographs afterwards. But yeah, so far that's about all we have on LRZ. Now we have some running back notes per Kingdom Cast who were out there in attendance, and that was Deneric Prince was getting the second snaps after Pacheco with the first team offense. Then running back Keontae Ingram was running pretty much exclusively as the guy with the second team offense. The running back room will be one to watch for a while, but with Deneric Prince already having a year under his belt in the Chiefs system, it makes sense that he would be getting the nod ahead of Keontae Ingram at the moment. Another battle to keep close eyes on is, of course, one I'm going to talk about frequently, and that is the left tackle spot. It looks like Wanye started out at left tackle for a few plays, then Kingsley came in for the rest of the drive. Meanwhile, on the right side, international player Jason Chu-Godric was the second guy to rotate in after Jawan Taylor was starting out. The same rotation then took place on the second drive as well. So you had Jawan on the right and Wanye on the left. Then Godric came in for Taylor and Kingsley for Wanye on the other side. Another guy to keep tabs on is going to be wide receiver Kadarius Toney. I have no idea what to make of him in his future, but if he is going to make the roster, one way I think he would have a great contribution is via punt returns on special teams. You could see him returning a punt here. He looks healthy, moving around quick, and he's always dangerous with the ball in his hands. The question is, can he show up, show out, and stay healthy enough to earn a spot on the roster? Then, here's some defensive notes. Brian Cook and rookie Jaden Hicks were the top safeties out there with Justin Reid still sidelined. Then for cornerbacks, it was Echo Boydo and Nazeeh Johnson with the second team defense. Then Trent McDuffie and Joshua Williams out there with the ones. More on both of those guys in a second, but first, I did want to point out that even though Nazeeh is working with the second team defense, at least as of today, Coach Spags spoke highly of him today in his presser, saying he's a bit rusty coming back from injury. I mean, he missed all of last year, tearing his ACL in training camp last year, but he nearly had an INT today and is actually one of the three main guys that's battling for that cornerback 2 spot opposite McDuffie, and he's battling it out with Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson. They all know it's a competition for that spot as well, and as a big Nazeeh Johnson fan, I am rooting for him as he bounces back from that ACL recovery. And speaking of the secondary, the Chiefs had some more roster moves today worth mentioning. Former Mizzou safety Tyree Gillespie re-signed with the team today, and to make room for him, they waived safety Trey Dean to make room, and Gillespie could be seen out there wearing number 46. Why they let go of Trey Dean at this point in time, I'm not really sure, but Gillespie's been off and on with the Chiefs since December of 2023, signing initially to the practice squad, so he definitely knows the system. He was initially drafted by the Faders, the Chokeland Faders, in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, playing primarily on special teams as a rookie before being traded to the Titans. Prior to the 2022 season, he then bounced around to several teams after that. But now, once again, the 6-foot-tall, 207-pound DB is back with the Chiefs. All right, next up with Worthy out of practice, sick. Hollywood Brown was getting some looks, yes, but also wide receiver Rashee Rice found himself busy a bit more today as well. He was targeted on a deep crosser here as he crossed over from the left side of the screen to the right, with Mahomes dropping it perfectly into this man's hands. Then Rice had a solid rep here against Trent McDuffie in coverage, showing that quick burst off the line, and Mahomes hit him in stride on that shallow crosser. It wasn't all good for Rice, though, as he reportedly fumbled a couple different times today. The first one was stripped out by Trent McDuffie here on this play. Then linebacker Drue Tranquill, who reportedly was flying all around out there during sevens, got Rice as well via this awesome punch out. Rice even had both hands on the ball. It looked secure, but that punch out was near perfection. Then to see Tranquill also recover the fumble, his own punch out, was pretty funny to see. That rarely ever happens. On the subject of the linebacker room, Coach Spags today noted they, of course, will miss Willie Gay Jr., who's now at the Saints. They are aiming for 5 or 6 linebackers this year, and they've got some good ones. Spags shouted out Jack Cochran specifically as a guy that's been doing a terrific job, and then he mentioned Leo Chanel, who will play some different roles this year, so we shall see how it all plays out. There's no question, though, about linebacker Nick Bolton. He will be the starting Mike linebacker this year, and he told the media today the defense has big aspirations as they chase the inevitable, or what seems like inevitable, three-peat. Bolton is on a contract year, yes, but he's not overly concerned about that at this point in time. He wants to focus on doing what he can to help this team win football games and worry about the contractual side of things as they happen, whenever that is. He still believes he can be even better out there in year 4, especially compared to last year as he battled through multiple injuries off and on nearly all season. Next up, something else that was funny to see from practice today was this clip here of defensive back Joshua Williams picking off a pass from Mahomes that was intended for Sky Moore. Then, after scrambling away with the ball, he proceeded to lateral it to Chris Jones. Normally, Kelsey is the guy with the wild laterals, but Josh Williams might take the cake with this one. Seemed like a good day for the Chiefs secondary overall, with Nate Taylor, among others, saying that Trent McDuffie had himself quite the day, dropping into a zone on one rep and locating Mahomes' deep pass. He then had a perfectly timed pass breakup against McCole Hardman. Josh Williams had a few PBUs himself outside of that INT intended for Sky Moore, with Lexi of Kingdom's Queen saying Williams was the standout of the day. And then Chiefs owner Clark Hunt spoke today about the future of Arrowhead as well as the future suspension of Rashee Rice. He was at least asked about both of these subjects. And regarding Arrowhead, Clark said there's 6.5 years left on the lease, so they do have some time, but are glad to have options on both the Kansas and Missouri side of the state line. They want to work very hard over the coming months and years. That makes sense for both the team as well as the community. And he definitely seemed intrigued to talk more with Kansas about a new stadium, but I thought it was interesting. Clark Hunt also shared he's even open to the idea of a new stadium on the Missouri side of the state line. Continuing to revamp Arrowhead is also a possibility. They basically said all options are still on the table, but he mentioned the idea of a new stadium multiple times as potential options and didn't seem to care about what side of the state line it would be on. They would also be interested in considering having a dome on the new stadium as well, as that opens the stadium up, or rather closes it up, for other opportunities while completely removing the weather factor out of the equation. Either way, while they are under lease until 2031, they would like to make significant progress on the next step within the next 6 months or so. Then, regarding Rashee Rice, Clark said there's nothing going on with the league at this point in time regarding convos with them about a suspension. The legal process is still playing out. Then when it wraps up is when the NFL will start looking into it all themselves. So right now, Clark Hunt doesn't have a timeline on when Rashee Rice's suspension talks will take place between the team and the league. The longer it all plays out, though, the legal process, the higher the chances are that Rice isn't suspended potentially until 2025. But we will see in the coming weeks if any updates happen on his legal issues. I'll be sure to keep you updated on that every step of the way, as well as these camp practices. So until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?